All right, back to Tether FUD. Okay, I guess Tornado Cash got people worried about USDC, about stable coins, DAI, Frax, all these things. Yeah, I think it is. So long story short, the U.S. Justice Department, the federal regulators put Tornado Cash, which is just a mixing service. It's a protocol. It's a smart contract, well, a bunch of smart contracts. And they put it on their sanction list. And so, first of all, there's a really interesting regulatory, statutory, or court case. Well, I mean, basically, it's a court case. It's got to be a court case. Somebody's got to bring this to court. Of the idea whether or not the U.S. government can sanction a protocol. Can you sanction a protocol? Can you sanction digital wallets? That doesn't really make a lot of sense. It would be like sanctioning a house because people are doing drugs in the house. Is it really the house? Like, couldn't you just kick out the people doing drugs and bring in normal people and the house would be fine? And that's kind of how it is with Tornado Cash. So it's a really interesting legal issue there. There's also the operational aspect of how do you do that? Like, already you see on Twitter people making jokes about, oh, okay, well, find a candidate that you know, look at their campaign, see if they're raising crypto. If they have a crypto wallet, send some money from Tornado Cash to that wallet through Tornado Cash, and now see if the Justice Department goes and goes after them for being money launderers. It's the whole thing that it doesn't really make sense in one way, but this is what's happening. It's actually a very, very interesting case, and it sucks if you're affected. One of the tangential things that came up is USDC, and the people who run USDC Circle basically sanctioning those addresses. So any USDC in those addresses is now frozen. Well, supposedly it's frozen, and what happens next, I don't know. It's going to be that is a whole nother issue, but that just brings up this whole idea of stable coins, of these centralized stable coins where you have to depend on an entity to make good on the promise that you can redeem that stable coin, which brings us to Tether. I've written about Tether for a long time. Existential, ever-present risk. Was a risk when it was created, will be a risk in 5 years if it hasn't imploded, and I'm not saying it will. If you ask me the over-under, I'd take the Tether exists side, but not by much. It's just Tether is so opaque that we just don't know. You really don't know if you're ever going to be able to redeem your Tether. It's just a risk you have to take if you're doing with USDT. With USDC, it's the same thing. You don't know. You just don't know. But you don't know if you can walk into your bank and redeem your money either. And I can tell you for a fact, you can't go to the Federal Reserve and redeem anything. Full faith and credit of the United States that you see on the bills, the paper bills you get, the coins that you get, you can't go into the Federal Reserve and get anything for that. You go into the Federal Reserve with $20 and say, I'd like to redeem this $20, they'll give you a 10 and 2 5s. But you have but I would trust the U.S. government a lot more than Circle and Tether. It's just the concept of having a source of funds that can be seized unilaterally or that may not even exist is a risk. It's a risk with everything. Now, how do you measure that risk? How do you grade that risk? How do you price that risk? I don't know. And I don't know if anybody knows. I know the price of that risk with the U.S. government is the risk is very low. Very, very low. But it's not zero. And if you're doing the wrong thing at the wrong time, even if you think it's legit, even if you're not breaking the law, it happens all the time. Not to me, fortunately, not to anybody I've known personally. But there are a lot of people. You get stopped by the cops. You're caught up in a RICO case that you may have nothing to do with. There are some, I could run down a whole list. It'd take me 5 minutes to just read off a list of all the times where your property is going to be confiscated, or you put your property in the trust of somebody who loses it. With USDT and USDC, the scale, the impact of something like that would be massive, as opposed to just you. But is it really any different in terms of conceptually, is it really that different? And if you're operating in crypto, you have to accept that risk. Even if you don't touch Tether, even if you don't touch USDC, you have to accept that risk. It is an ever-present risk, and it is a significant risk. It is a very significant risk. I just don't know how to price that, and I don't know how to put a probability on that. So, relax and enjoy the ride.